Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our fifth ARC Northwest Coast Seldom Heard Forum. We're going to be presenting today as myself. I'm the Public Involvement Manager at ARC. We've also got Ruth Ball, Shema Hassan, and also our public advisors Nahid Tahir, Neil Taylor, Paul Morat. So I'm just going to give you a very quick introduction to the ARC. This is our team that I've just introduced. This is the agenda today. As you can see, it's quite a packed agenda. We've got some really interesting presentations. We'll be having a brief break. I'm not sure if the timing's right on that break, Ruth. It's not 1:50 to 2:15, is it?
No, it's not. Sorry, apologies.
I think I've put the agenda in wrong. I'll come back to it in a minute once I've got the full agenda. So housekeeping rules, if you can just please remain on mute through the presentations. We are recording the meeting and the speakers will be pinned on the screen. It's nice if you keep your videos on if possible, but if you do feel uncomfortable about being visible, please do keep them off, or if you need to with children at home. I realise it's the Easter holidays. Please use the chat function to make any comments or ask questions during the presentations. We will be writing up a follow-up blog after the forum, and any questions will be asked during the Q&A sessions. If we have a hijacked Zoom meeting, we will shut the meeting down, and we apologise in advance. And we are on Twitter, so please do tweet about today's Seldom Heard Forum on men's mental health. So very briefly, if you don't know about the ARC, the ARC it stands for Applied Research Collaboration, as covers the Northwest Coast. There are 15 other ARCs across the UK. And it brings together researchers from universities together with health and social care providers, commissioners, local authorities and members of the public and communities to develop, deliver and implement research into practice. And our vision is to improve health equity and applied health research through the voice of the population. So we set up this Seldom Heard Forum, I think just over a year ago, so we could communicate with and bring forward the needs and experiences of seldom heard groups across the Northwest Coast, to share good practice and to discuss how to enhance inclusion in applied health research of these seldom heard communities and address the issues that they raise. After today's session, you should get an email about joining our NHS Futures workspace, which we set up so that we can carry on the important conversations that come up today. So please do join our NHS Futures workspace, introduce yourself and tell us about your experiences and thoughts about the forum after you've been today. So I'm just going to speak very briefly about today's topic, which is about men's mental health. I think we all know that men's mental health is a highly talked about and an important area. If you can see in the little picture here, I found this about men are only 38% of NHS talking therapy referrals, yet 78% of deaths by suicide are men. And in the Northwest, we have very, very high levels of bad mental health for men. And you've also got to consider the social determinants of health and how high the poverty and deprivation levels are in much of the Northwest. And you can see the parallels between poverty, deprivation and men's mental health. This is a photograph of my father, Derek Wallace. So this is my sort of personal reflections very briefly about men's mental health. My dad died when I was 15, but my enduring recollections of my father is not this happy smiling face, but of a man that was very isolated, that didn't really spend any time with friends and didn't particularly spend time with his family. My dad read the newspaper and watched the news and was quite an angry man, and as a teenager I did not feel loved by him, and it was only after his death when I was 15 that my mum let me know that he had a diagnosis of chronic ongoing depression, which I hadn't known about, and was seeing a psychotherapist through most of my childhood. So I have nearly all of us are touched by men's mental health in one way or another. So next we're going to move on to our speaker sessions. Then we'll have a Q&A session and close. A short follow-up evaluation survey will follow by email, and we thank you in advance for your comments. We will be writing a follow-up blog, and we'll send out information about our next forum in the next 6 to 8 weeks. Information will follow. Thank you. Ruth, would you like to let me know who the first speaker is today?
Yes, first speaker is Claire Larocque, and she's from James Place. So I'm going to just make Claire, I'm going to share her presentation, but Claire's going to talk alongside it. So I'm just going to pin her to the screen so you can see who she is. So welcome, Claire.
Thank you.
Just need to share a slide, share the presentation. Just bear with me. It's one of those technical things, so just bear with me. Oops, so you can't see that, sorry.
Yeah, we can see it.
You see it okay? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Just need to press begin, I think, or
Full screen, yeah.
yeah, there you go.
Hiya, my name's Claire Larocque, and I am a senior suicide prevention therapist here at James's Place. First slide, please, Ruth. The James Place was founded by Claire Milford Haven and Nick Wentworth Stanley following the tragic death of their son, James, by suicide. 10 days after James had a minor operation, he took his own life. He went looking for help and someone to talk to because he was having increasingly suicidal thoughts, but he didn't find the help that he so urgently needed. James Place was opened, Liverpool should I say, in 2018, and we have since opened a second centre in London in 2021. So James Place was set up so that no man faces a suicidal crisis alone. The support we offer is focused on the individual and is available free to men in Merseyside and London experiencing a suicidal crisis. Many of the men we work with have never had therapy before. The language and settings of therapy may be difficult and unfamiliar. Our work uses clear, everyday language to help men understand how they have reached a crisis and what is keeping it going. Importantly, the men learn new ways of coping that will help if they are faced with a similar set of circumstances in the future. So we, at James Place, we work with men who are experiencing a suicidal crisis. They might be experiencing intense and distressing suicidal thoughts. They may have feelings of hopelessness and despair. They may have had made plans or intend to act on their suicidal thoughts. Some men that we have seen here may have tried to hurt or kill themselves. So we support men who are, or those who are identify as male, who are 18 and over, experiencing a suicidal crisis. They must be registered and willing to share information with their GP. And also able to access accommodation to engage in talk and therapy throughout their intervention with us. We aim to offer 16 plus therapeutic sessions weekly, as well as 10 welcome assessments weekly. Welcome assessments are for those who have just been referred to us. We have a rolling caseload in Liverpool of approximately 35 men. We've also got a volunteer mentor group, and we have these volunteers who help our men whilst they're with us and for the first few weeks after, if they so wish. So far, we have seen over 550 men, and our trained therapists have delivered over 2,000 sessions to men in crisis since we opened in 2018. Thanks, Ruth. So so what we do here, we have our intervention is called Cards on the Table, and we use different sets of cards that help men explore why they are with us, what's been happening that they've found themselves with us. And then more importantly, we work with them so we can find a way that they can get through their suicidal crisis. As you can see, the environment has been designed and contributes to making men feel safe and secure, and very much so welcomed in our environment, so then they can be more at ease to be supported by us. Thanks, Ruth. So our intervention is evidence-based crisis resolution model, very much solution-focused. So we take everything into consideration, from the environment to seeing men who have been referred to us within 24 to 48 hours. And the referral pathways range from A&E, GPs, friends, family, and very importantly as well, the men themselves can now self-refer through our website, as can other professionals. Thank you, Ruth. So at the moment, a large proportion of our clients are between 18 and 34, 35, and we are trying to target the 45 to 54 age range, because through the research that's been done, most of the people who die from suicide are within that age range. Thank you, Ruth. So we are now in year 3, and that is at the moment being evaluated. Our year 1 was really positive, the results that we received, and year 2 was even more positive, actually, bearing in mind that we were working remotely during the pandemic in the last year or two. In year 1 and 2, we use core 34, the core 34, sorry, and in this year we're using the core 10 and the entrapment short form, which our clients tend to find a lot more easy to use. And again, we don't want them to be overwhelmed with facts and figures and numbers, so we're keeping it short and condensed, and then from that we can get results that we need. Thank you. So yes, so this is my very first client that I had at James Place, and he's kindly agreed to do this little video for us. Thank you.
No, I didn't see a future in doing anything I was doing, or a future that had me in it. That was it. I was just like last resort sort of thing. So I actually got tricked into going to the doctors. I didn't know I was going. I spoke to the doctor at that point. To me, it didn't matter who knew how I felt. And then, doctor just let me contact this James's Place and, just give it one last go sort of thing. So I did. I remember we parked just down a couple of streets down, and we walked it out to get walked to the door. The door opened, and I was just like, "Yeah, go on, then. We'll give it a go." It's weird to find that someone cared about finding the root of the issue more than just cared about me, because there's one thing someone just caring about you and keeping you alive, but it's another thing trying to stop what's wanting to make me die, which was what the difference was. The more open I felt to talk about it, the more I'd feel myself getting better. I mean, it was 3 years ago. I was on rock bottom, real rock bottom. And, I'm not 100% every day when I wake up in the morning. But, when I look at where I was 3 years ago and look at where I am today, there's a complete difference. And at that point, I didn't think there was a future for me. Talk to someone and find a good support network, which is obviously easier said than done. But the first step's wanting to feel a bit better about yourself when you wake up in the morning. Make one step and the rest will follow.
And this is just final words from one of our past clients, Chris. Thanks for sharing, Ruth. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. That was really, really moving. Can you just really briefly tell me, really, what do you, how do you work? How does your model work? Somebody walks through the door, like the story you just expressed. How do things start?
Okay, so like I said, we aim to see men between 24 and 48 hours of receiving their referral. If they do reach all the criteria, we'll have them in, we'll have a welcome assessment with them. So one of the therapists will have a welcome assessment, find out if they are suitable for the intervention, and find out if they are experiencing a suicidal crisis. And again, it's a mutual thing, a relationship. They might not want to come to us once they know that what we do, so we do work together to find out. If they do come on board, we will encourage them to let a supporter, be it a friend, next of kin, know that they're being supported by us, and kind of like be with them on the journey while they're here. They are offered between 8 and 10 sessions over a 6 to 8 week period. It is really intense. In the first couple of weeks, we like to see someone twice. I have had 1 or 2 where I have seen them 3 times in the first couple of weeks, because their suicidality has just been so high, and it's about trying to keep them safe, that we will do what we can to help them and support them. And again, we are very solution focused. I'm a person-centered counsellor by trade, but I love this work as a suicide prevention therapist. We use quite a few CBT techniques as well here. So we get them to a place where they are in a place to keep themselves safe, and then we look at signposting to other organisations where needed.
Brilliant. We've just got a question in the chat from Dorcas. She wanted to know about the ethnicity breakdown of your clients. Do you have BAME clients seeking help?
Very few and far between, and that's something that we are trying to target, unfortunately. I mean, we are in the heart of Liverpool 8, which is one of the most multicultural areas in Liverpool. I know from my personally, I've most probably, since 2018 when I started working here, I've had 4 or 5 people from other ethnicities apart from white British. So that is something that we are targeting at the moment.
Yeah. How many members of staff do you have working there, Claire?
We have the centre manager, we have the head of James Place Liverpool and clinical lead, Jane. We have me, senior therapist, and we have admin and 4 other therapists.
As well.
We are quite small.
Yeah. Is this quite like a new innovative type of care? You know, there are many other places doing similar things in the country.
No.
No.
In a word, I think we are I think we are like the flagship of this type of work. We have just opened, like I said, a centre in London in 2021, in Hackney, I think it is. But nobody else, as far as I'm aware, and I've been working here since 2018, do what we do. And we are very successful at what we do.
We've got another question from Hazel that follows on from that. She asks, do you hold resources and information about similar organisations that are working in this area but outside of your region? So like you say, there's not really anywhere, or not many others. No, there isn't. We do have quite a few resources in-house of other organisations that we can signpost the clients to after they have, once they're no longer suicidal. We've got quite a lot of signposting that way. But as in other areas, apart from, I know there's a couple of places that support men who have been suicidal, but not necessarily men who are in suicidal crisis. Okay. There's some more questions in the chat, so I'd ask you whether you could possibly stay on and answer those, but we are going to have to move on to the next presentation. I've got another one for you, so I'll put it in the chat as well. But thanks a lot. Thanks so much. It was an amazing presentation. Ruth, who have we got next?
Our next presentation is actually from Tom Fuchs. Now, Tom's not able to be with us, so I'm actually going to play, he's recorded one for us. So hopefully this will work. And I'll just try and share that now. Just bear with me.
Thank you, Ruth.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try it then.
Hi, my name's Tom Fowkes. I am the Men's Project Development Coordinator at Wirral, and today I'll be talking about making collaboration elemental. So firstly, I'd just like to start with a bit of a background of how Wirral have been helping men on Wirral. We started back in 2014 through the formation of the Silverbacks group. It was a group that came from feedback from the community who were using other services at Wirral, who said that men in the local area had issues with mental health, with well-being and isolation. So we set up a group that was non-clinical, it was non-judgmental, and a place for men to socialise, share issues, and also do activities that improved well-being. This led to collaborations initially with Wirral Ways, turning a disused allotment into a community allotment. With Lipper, we did drama, which really helped confidence, and other community groups and activities such as joinery. What was great was the men, the Silverbacks group, were given a space at Wirral for their project, and they took that space and helped improve place, not just for their service. They created a wood shop and they created a community garden, which helped all the activities on site, but also off site as well, which meant they could do alleyway projects and improve the local area. From this, Wirral realised that men needed a bit more of a holistic service on Wirral, and this is where the Elemental project was developed, and it was to use a collaborative approach to help men holistically with their well-being. Now, our project mission is to reduce isolation and improve well-being of men in Wirral, and that's through activities and community integration. To do this, we've got a number of outcomes. We want to reduce isolation of men on Wirral, we want to improve their well-being, and we want to improve the skills and education of our men. We want to improve their confidence, and we really want to give to the community as well. Now, we know that we can't do this on our own, and that's why we need to work collaboratively. We need to understand when men need support from other services that are better suited to their needs than Wirral. We need to keep our men safe as a partnership, and I know if we achieve our outcomes, we will only be attributing just to a small amount of that success, as it's usually a team effort. Now, these outcomes are underpinned by some delivery principles. We offer a hub-based approach in areas of need. We provide places that enhance quality to the activities that we offer and are also accessible. So we've chosen places in areas of the highest deprivation where we know that the issues of mental health, well-being and suicide exist, but also places that have good transport links so men from across other areas can come along. And we hope that no matter which hub activity is attended, it will have the same feel and level of support. We want to embed the 5 ways of well-being in our delivery. We see ourselves as a collaborative, preventative and post-intervention service for men. We believe that embedding these in every aspect is the only way that we can create longer-term change in our men. And we hope by improving well-being on a daily or a weekly basis consistently that we can improve well-being in the long term and help reduce the likelihood of suicide and accessing clinical support in our community. Now, we want to be inclusive, and to do that we need to be collaborative again. We need to collaborate with the group to help in our decision making, but also we need to collaborate with our community as well. We need to have spaces that are physically inclusive, as well as the way that we deliver our services, tailoring things just slightly from knowledge and support of other people. We might just access men who may not have otherwise engaged and been at more risk. We want to support venture, and we can do this through collaborative, through providing services and delivering on projects that reduce the reliance on our grant funding to operate our hubs. And also, we want to support venture on individuals as well, supporting them with new skills, confidence, volunteering opportunities, and employment opportunities. And a big one I want to talk about is collaboration. It's about working together so we can enhance the quality of each other's services. It's about increasing the positive impact that we can have on our men and our communities. For us, it's about adding places and services for other organisations and the community to use, and enhancing this through skill sharing, shared resources, and adding a more efficient and effective service for our men. It's about creating collaboration that adds value to the outputs of the group and also the inputs that our members put in. And also one principle that's not written down here is fun. It's interpreted by me flat on my backside down at the ecotherapy hub. We all need to relax and get away from our issues, and from time to time it's good to have a space to do this. So how do we know where collaboration helps? Collaboration really helps in us integrating into our community, working with partners to find volunteering, to help share services and accessing wider support. It really helps our men so much. Integrating in the community for our men, it helps build confidence and increases the number and diversity of social interactions. It helps them share their skills, their interests and their successes with those living around them and their community, which must be great for well-being. For us as an organisation too, we can share and support our knowledge, resources and experiences with those around us and use those people best skilled for the different aspects of holistic delivery, rather than trying to deliver everything ourselves. We want to support personal identity through collaboration. Each one of our men is different and it should be celebrated and supported within our group. Helping our men establish their identity through our wellbeing principles and service collaborations, we have seen some great outcomes. Identity as well is a key factor for some men's wellbeing. So collaborating and signposting to activities and services to help shape an offer that's the individual, it's got to work. And a big one is goals. They're so important. Every session the gents are told what we're going to do and what they'll achieve. This is for the day, for the week and for the project, and it just adds value to the sessions and the attendees' input. It helps them understand their achievements and the importance of their input to the group and the community. And using collaborative goals or helping others achieve goals, it just helps with that greater sense of well-being. We want to use collaboration to help diversity. The group works best with men from different backgrounds. Over the last 12 months, we've done our best to try and diversify our attendees. We have people who have had thoughts of suicide or attempts of suicide, self-harm, major illness, substance misuse, the neurodiverse, the suffering from depression. They care for people and have become isolated, or they've had a major life change, such as an illness or retirement, or a relocation. These have been brought together through different referral partners, and we learn from each other's stories and experience and help support each other and our community better doing this. The more that we can bring people together, I think the more that we can learn and share that learning with each other. And due to all this, we need to be flexible. We need to be flexible to help this collaboration. We need to be flexible in the ways that we support and evaluate our work, and we shouldn't be scared of stopping something if it's not working or it could be done better, or trying something new if it will benefit our service users. And a big one is place. Place matters so much. It matters that we're setting the right environment for the activity, for the enjoyment of our service users, for access, and for a space for men to be who they want to be and support each other. This is both in the physicality that we've discussed, but also in the atmosphere and involvement of the group, and collaborating with organisations is so important for this. One of our hubs that we work through is our social hub. It's based at Liberty Church in Birkenhead Town Centre. And here we start the morning off with a cup of tea, we have a chat, we support each other, we put the world to rights, and then we tend to do an activity. This has been jamming sessions, as you can see in the picture, creative art sessions, poetry, drama, most recently indoor curling inspired by the GB team, quizzes and things like that. Just in the picture here, I just want to focus on this. I want to show you why we know collaboration works. It's because I'm losing men, regular men who use our group. I'm losing them, but I'm losing them for the right reasons. On the right here, we've got Tim. Now, Tim has been with the Silverbacks for 3 years, attending sessions when we were based in our old headquarters, getting involved, coming and going, and finding general interests in the group and making friends along the way, which was great. Now, we wouldn't see Tim for a few weeks, maybe months, and we grew concerned, hoping he was okay. Now, since COVID, we've hired a room at Liberty Church. We don't have to, as we do have the space at Beechwood, but we know it's better suited for the group due to the location, the amenities on site, and the Liberty Church's community activities. Tim returned to this venue, and within a couple of months of coming and going to sessions, he's now become involved in a number of music-based projects there. Music is his passion. Using the resources on site, he's now supporting other musicians who have not played and become isolated. He's helping develop the site with Liberty Church, looking at developing a recording studio. And also, I've just found out that through all this, he's got his first piece of work for creating music for a film. I spoke to Tim. I'm absolutely made up for him. He's so happy the place he's in. And he did say that if we hadn't used Liberty Church, that he wouldn't be in this place now. And that makes me so happy that you doing this collaboration has worked so well for Tim. He's following his passion in music. And although Tim hasn't been to our sessions now for a few months, I'm least concerned now because I know he's doing brilliant stuff now with Liberty Church. Another of our hubs is our ecotherapy hub. And here we grow vegetables, we do lots of learning about how to grow, we enhance biodiversity, do some site development, and it's a base for our environment-based community projects, but also a place for people to access nature and to talk and relax. Our service is delivered alongside Wirral Environmental Network. Over time, they are empowering us to manage the community allotment on our own and teaching the gents on how to improve the local environment. Using WEN has allowed us to link up to a network of organisations where we can share resources and collaboratively work together using our local site as a base, helping the community around us, but also wider Wirral area too. We share seeds, produce, people, and support each other's funding bids for projects, linking well-being and environmental outcomes. It's also widened our ability to provide different nature-based activities for men, hopefully attracting other men. And this has led to some great community projects. At Magenta, we did volunteering to help improve planters on Beckworth Street. And I'm still getting updates about how those plants are doing from the group who basically actively police them. We've helped Tam O'Shanter clear buildings. We helped create community garden at St Mary's Church in Liscard, and we provided wildlife-based woodwork to schools in Wallasey. We've litter picked, and we open our allotments up to local residents. All this brings our group and our community together. Next, and we're just working towards it, so close to announcing it, we are working on a woodwork hub, and this again, it will be based on joinery for wildlife and horticulture. We'll be doing things like bird boxes, bug hotels, planters. We're going to use willow weaving there, supporting environmental projects and making use of an underused community asset, and supporting a well-loved and vital community project as well. And it's providing our men again with more access to nature and wildlife, which we know is good for well-being. Look out for this one, and I'll share more with the group when I can. So what next? We want to create a sustainable service where we're less reliant on grant funding and can always provide a core service. We want to increase the education of men's suicide and mental health within our community, and we want to understand and refine our role and responsibilities in the support on Wirral. We need to understand the local issues more and demands more, and we want to develop hubs to be collaborative support for organisations and service users. As well as this, because it's a collaborative approach, I'd like to work on shared KPIs, shared monitoring evaluation techniques, and look at providing a central communication for men's services on the. Thank you very much for listening. If you would like to collaborate, or you have men who would like to use this service, please do get in touch. I would love to hear from you, and let's work together to help improve well-being of men on Wirral.
What a fantastic story about the amazing work that they're doing on the Wirral and Tom. I'm afraid Tom isn't with us today, so we can't ask him any questions in person, but I think, as Seamus said, he'll be joining us on the NHS Futures Workspace after the forum. If you'd like to follow up with any questions for him, please do join when you get the email about it. Thanks for your comments, Rhiannon. Really moving stories from Tom. Ruth, who have we got next on the agenda?
We've got Ben Coper joining us, and Ben's going to talk rather than doing a presentation, rather than doing a PowerPoint. So I'll just highlight Ben and let him loose. Okay.
Welcome, Ben. Look forward to hearing your story.
Cheers, Selena. So I run Wirral Sea Angling Academy, a not-for-profit organisation that promotes health and well-being through the medium of sea fishing. Might sound a bit mad. Now, to understand what I do properly, I'll have to tell you my story. So not too many years ago, say 5, I was living in a tent in a car park in a train station with a needle hanging out my arm, hopelessly and utterly addicted to heroin and crack cocaine. And when you're in that kind of situation, you're so low. You're hoping that every shot you take, you're hoping that's going to kill you, because you cannot see any other way out of that hole. I found a way out. Fishing. So I'd been into sea fishing as a kid, and I just said to myself one day, look, I'm going to have to get busy dying or get busy living. So I got myself a fishing rod, and I started going up the shore. I went every day for about a year on my own. And then people started to see, I mean, I was the world's most hopeless degenerate. And then people were seeing that I'm clean, and they're like, Christ, what's going on with Ben? Why is he clean? So people started asking me to take them. And that's how Wirral Sea Angling Academy was born. So it started in 2018. And we've always had a strong slant towards mental health. But the first demographic I ever really worked with was people in recovery from substance abuse, because at the time that's what I felt most qualified to work with. But now I do collaborations, like we've just seen Tom. I do a fishing trip for them. And it's funny because he was, if you recall the picture he showed to Tim, he was volunteered with someone else. Well, the other guy on the picture, that's Pete, and he now volunteers with me. He comes to one of my sessions one day. Guy wasn't going out of his house, drinking too much. Comes to one of my fishing sessions and found his passion. Now, what I always say to people is, we still have all this primordial circuitry in our brains, the fight or flight mechanism, the hunter-gatherer instinct, and it's just not catered to in modern society, which leads to alienation, drug dependency, depression, alcoholism, gambling. The fishing helps you reconnect with nature. It helps you reconnect with the world. Now, I personally get the same serotonin and dopamine buzz of catching a fish, or indeed seeing one of my guys catch a fish, as I used to off injecting Class A drugs. So it's replacing a very negative behaviour and addiction with something far more positive. But going back to specific mental health, over the years, I have lost quite a few dear friends to suicide. I've been there myself, not just men, either women. You know, it's tragic, it's heartbreaking. So every year on the 23rd, well, this year it's the 23rd of April, but I do it every year. We have a suicide awareness barbecue at Seacombe Ferry Terminal. There's 15 places for people to fish, because I'm in short of 15. But if people provide their own gear, they can come down and fish alongside us. Have a barbecue. No, a lot of people just come down to socialise, just talk. You know, quite a few people don't fish, and we created a little community. You know, a therapeutic community. People that were otherwise very excluded and alienated come to our events at the time of their lives. So I don't just work with the Silverbacks. I also work with Man Mind, Wirral Mind, and a few other mental health organisations. I also do it with refugees. Now, I've been sent loads of guys, and we don't speak each other's language, but we understand the universal language of fishing. So, you know, I've never found language an actual barrier to it. So what we're doing now is we're doing more and more regular trips for organisations like the YMCA, because they actually approach me because they think it's important that the guys who were in my shoes now should hear my story. I do it for the probation service. I also work quite a lot with veterans and the blind. The blind's quite a niche group, but obviously, depression is quite common amongst these guys who are severely disabled, and getting out and fishing really helps them. You know, and the veterans as well. Fishing's brilliant for PTSD, and I do an event with Blind Veterans UK. I do an event with Thomas Harrison House, the Veterans Rehab Centre in Anfield, and these are all regular things. Yeah. Any questions?
Thank you, Ben. That was really amazing. I've been out with Ben, with my little lad, a couple of times fishing. It's really good for you support quite a lot of kids with special needs.
Oh yeah,
well,
yeah. I've got a homeschooled autistic group, a normal homeschool group. Well, you know, homeschool kids with other needs, and normal school kids. You know, kids who go to regular school as well.
Yeah. So it's all sorts of different. It's good how it's getting the different age people together, right, from sort of young people to older people. Ben, can you tell us anything about what was it that do you feel in your life, if you want to share, that led you to, you know, to the kind of difficult places that you were, you know, before you went back to the sea fishing? You know, is there anything you think that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I had cancer, and I wound up addicted to opiates, and but I'm not completely blameless. If I'm honest, I enjoyed taking heroin. At the time, it was great. It numbed all the bad feelings, all the depression, and you know. So I think, if I'm completely honest, quite a bit of it would have been using drugs to treat childhood trauma.
Yeah. But it was your childhood experience of sea fishing that sort of brought you back to.
Well, you know, from a Jungian perspective, I mean, if you want, a mate of mine's a doctor who works in the drug service, and how he does it is he'll go back to people's childhoods and he'll focus more on the positives and like bring the good memories to the fore. So that's kind of what I did with the fishing. Does that make sense?
What is it about fishing that you think makes people really love it so much?
Well, I've got the most beautiful office in the world, stood on the banks of the Mersey. You're out in the fresh air, you know, where people talk to you and you see some truly amazing sights. I've seen porpoises swim down the Mersey. I've seen 3-foot sharks come out at Seacombe. Honestly, we caught about 200 of them last year. They're called smooth hounds. I also, if somebody catches a decent bass or something, I'll cook it there and then. I'll show everyone how to gut it, fillet it, prepare it, and cook it in a little camping kitchen. So it has got a real kind of communal aspect to it that people love.
Yeah. I love that. Does anyone want to ask any questions or say anything to Ben in the audience? If you just put your hand up, either on camera or in the chat. Anyone? Any questions for Ben? Okay.
One thing as well, Selena, I think, Ben, beautiful to hear, you know, your thoughts and your story coming through as well. You know, about creating these little tiny groups that you've created that supported yourself and supported other men. What kind of support is there available for you to keep this going? You know, you're looking after sometimes for young kids and also, you know, men and, you know, going out to sea.
So with our CIC status is pending. The vast majority of tackle we get donated. We've been really lucky. The things that people have donated has been absolutely amazing. The main cost is the base. And in order for it to be self-sustaining, I have to ask people for either a £5 or a £10 donation. I mean, if people are scared, I'll still take them. That's not a problem. But in order to pay for the base, so it doesn't come out of my pocket, so it's self-sustaining, people pay towards the base. And like an organisation will say, we want to take so many people. I'll say, all right, well, the bait's going to cost you this.
Yeah, and that's important, isn't it, to have those resources available to support you continue your great work, Ben. Thank you so much.
No problems.
I think Robert's got his hand up. Robert?
You're on mute.
Hi, Ben.
Hi, mate.
Can you hear me?
Yes, mate.
Yeah, it's Rob. The matter of base is really interesting. I used to know somebody in Liverpool who ran a city farm, and in the outskirts in Kirby, he used to breed worms in big barrels, and from the worms he fed carp fish. And he found out that the Chinese community really like carp fish. So he used to sell the fish to the Chinese community. So there's a big cycle there, you know, to do with
the Polish eat carp on Christmas Day. I've had it, it's nice.
Well, there you go. There's a business there in the making for you.
The only problem is that's coarse fishing, and what we do is sea fishing, so it's different worms to the garden worm. It's lug worms off the beach we use, but I do take your meaning. You know
Charles, you've heard of Charles Darwin?
Yes, indeed.
He studied worms for a lot of his life. And out of that study came theories of evolution. And he was a pretty bright gentleman. So
indeed, I've read the Origin of Species.
Worms are very important, and I'm pleased to hear that, you know, you're into worms. I think it's fantastic.
Great, thank you, Robert. That's brilliant.
Thanks.
And thanks, Ben, for your great, you know, presentation about, you know, your story initially, and also to follow about some of the great work that you've been doing, Ben. Brilliant to have you.
Just off the top of my head, you know.
Brilliant. So yes, if anyone has further questions or would like to chat to Ben, he'll still be able to access the chat, but also the NHS Futures Workplace after the forum. Selena, are we on a break or are we continuing?
Yeah, we're going to just have a very quick 5-minute break, and then we'll come back. And I think we're hearing from Robert when we come back. So just, yeah, 5 minutes, back at 1:58, I think it will be. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Brilliant, thanks Ruth. So I'm just going to introduce Robert in a second. Just very briefly, part of our Seldom Heard Voices Forum is having the voices of our public advisors. All the research that the ARC North West Coast does is co-production with members of the public and the community. So we have over 80 public advisors based across the Northwest that co-produce our research projects with all our researchers and PhD students. If you're interested in joining, please do get in touch and sign up as a public advisor for us. Next we're going to hear from Robert MacDonald, one of our public advisors, about his experiences. If you'd like to go on, Robert.
Thank you. Can you hear me, everybody?
Yeah.
Thank you. First of all, can I just say thank you to the ARC Forum for this opportunity for us all to talk about men's mental health and well-being. I've got a number of points to make, and then I'd like to show a couple of pictures of artwork that I've done with Merseycare. So what I would say is that my name is Dr. Rob MacDonald. I'm formerly a retired architect. I got a double first-class degree from Liverpool University in 1970, and my PhD was from Liverpool University. What I hope to do personally to encourage a dialogue and to learn from this meeting today. And I think the learning is very important, and I've certainly already started to learn quite a lot about these issues. I think we need to bring men's mental health into the light from the dark. And I would ask, why is it acceptable for us to talk about men's physical health, like prostate cancer, but not about mental health? Why don't we even have a name for mental health, whether it's anxiety, depression, psychosis, schizophrenia? All the names seem to mingle one into another. I think we need a more plain user language without jargon to talk about these issues. We're all well aware that lots of celebrities are talking about mental health, but what about people who are not celebrities? Now, I've been bipolar since the age of 19, and I'm now 70. So that's my lived experience is contained within that lifespan. And there are lots of various conditions, and I think they are a spectrum. And in some, like autism, there's a kind of spectrum within them. There doesn't appear to be a consensus about the number of people who are actually experiencing mental health disorders. Sometimes it's 1 in 8, sometimes it's 1 in 4, sometimes it's 1 in 3. And the figure of 98 percentage of men committing suicide that was mentioned earlier, personally, I find incredibly shocking figure. So I've had several experiences of manic episodes, which are quite terrifying, quite frightening. The common solution is medication. And I've 2 tin boxes beside my bed, and I counted the number of tablets in the boxes this morning, and there are 13 different tablets. So if you turn me upside down, clearly I will rattle, and I do rattle of medication. There is a psychiatrist in New York called Andrew Solomon. He talks on TED Talks on YouTube, and he suggests that depression is the human condition. So we all live with depression to a greater and lesser extent throughout our lives. And I think it's all well and good, but it's very good for the pharmaceutical industry if that's the case. Manic episodes, in my opinion, can lead to suicide. from my perspective, is not a rational event. It's actually a manic outcome that leads to suicide. Now, whether or not they can be anticipated or recognized, I think is debatable. The psychiatric response is to section somebody, and I can describe the experiences of being sectioned because of so-called inappropriate behavior, or being put in a seclusion suite, of which there are still in psychiatric hospitals, that is rooms without windows. You've got to be pretty mental to put somebody in a room without a window. Also, you might end up in a shared sex ward. Sleep is supposed to be good for you. It's absolutely difficult to get to sleep in a shared sex ward. You think of the noises, you know, the nurses chattering, people going backwards and forwards to the toilet. It's not possible. There have been lots of improvements in terms of the design of better bedrooms, and certainly Merseycare and other health trusts around the country have explored those. Probably the most terrifying threat is electric shock treatment. Unfortunately, I was helped by a doctor outside the health service so that I could avoid electroshock treatment. I was frightened of it. I was terrified of it. I thought it would kind of really damage my brain. Tribunals are interesting ways of getting out of a hospital, and where you're faced by a panel of different specialists who decide whether or not you are able to go back into the community. In my experience, the person that was very helpful was a minister of religion who was an independent advisor and was very, very helpful in me and my tribunal. So all those points from 1 to 18 are to do with my life story up to now. What I would like to do is be a bit more positive. They might sound a bit negative, and talk about some therapeutic lessons that I've learned. The first one of the previous speakers spoke about fun. I think laughter and fun is very important. And I've performed at the Laughter House Comedy Store in Liverpool. I've also presented to an international forum of neuroscientists about laughter being the best therapy. I've been taken to places of natural beauty in a minibus by a psychiatric nurse. It happened to be Snowdonia. It was a beautiful experience. I've been taken to garden centres and shown how to make a hanging basket. And that's why I thought, you know, what the previous groups were looking at, making things, it was very beneficial. Consultants have advised that I go walk in the park, sit amongst the birds and the bees. I like to stroke dogs and pets. I love flowers and daffodils. And for Ruth, I really like squirrels. So, you know, all these little creatures are very important. Probably the most important therapy for me is water. I go for a slow swim on a Monday in the slow lane, and on a Friday I do aquafit with 1 or 2 gentlemen, but mostly 60 ladies. We dance in the water to the music of ABBA, the Beatles, and the Pet Shop Boys. That is a therapeutic, wonderful therapeutic activity, and water is a great source of sustenance for me. I try to live for now, in the present. That's what I'm trying to do. I draw, I paint, I read, and I write, mostly about mental health. and I've set up an Art for Wellbeing course with Merseycare. Mary, my wife, has been a constant carer and looked after me in sickness, physical sickness and mental health. So our carers are very important. So I'd now like to show you some images. If Ruth could please put, I think there's five images. Thank you. So this one is my interpretation of bipolar. On the left, you see the head of Medusa, a Greek female monster with eight heads. You don't have to count the heads if you can see them or not. And on the right is the multi-rayed sunshine. That's one vision of what bipolar might be about. And the next image is, that's my selfie. It's not really my selfie, but you know, that's what I imagine myself to be sitting, reading a book, a real book. I'm involved with Lancaster University, who are setting up a living library where people with all kinds of disorders get the opportunity to tell their stories and present them and record them in some kind of book. Not necessarily a paper book, but a digital book. So I think reading is really important. Reading, writing, drawing, and painting is important in my activities and to have a vital state of mind. Thank you. This work we did together, so it is co-production, if that's the right word, in one of the Art for Wellbeing courses. This was inspired by Edvard Munch, Matisse and Picasso, and liquid abstract art from the 20th century. So all those images were made in a 2-hour session in the Southport Life Room on a Friday afternoon. And the next one, please. This one is co-produced and it's based on the Beatles' I'd Like to Be Under the Sea in an octopus's garden. And we played the music, the backbeat music, for audio inspiration whilst we made these panels. And they're all made from as found newsprint and printed material. There's 9 of them because 9 is a magic number. And next one, please. This one is based on the Minotaur and the Labyrinth in Greek mythology, and Picasso's painting King of the Minotaurs in the center, and all around the edges there are images that were made as selfies by people in the group. The Minotaurs are at the bottom. I think the Labyrinth exists in classical mythology, and it's an incredible kind of illustration, I think, of the nature of the mind and the labyrinth and the mind, and searching to fight the monster, the Minotaur, at the center. So I think there might be another one. Thank you. There's no more. So that's the end of my presentation. I'd like you to say thank you very much for listening. And finally, thank you for everybody involved in the forum, in organizing the forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. We could hear from you all day, as you've got such a fascinating story about your life and all the things that you've done. We're so lucky to have you as an advisor for the ARC, the lived experience that you have. Does anyone have any questions for Robert about his story? his artwork. See if there's any hands up. Any hands up today? Thanks, Robert. If you've got any questions for Robert in the meantime, if you can put them on in the chat, that'd be really great. Thank you. I think we're going to have to move on with time. Ruth, who's the next person on the list?
Yeah, our next advisor, it's another advisor, it's Mark Wirral, who's one of our newer advisors as well. And so I'm going to highlight Mark, and I think he's going to do his own presentation himself. So welcome, Mark. It's good to have you here.
Thanks, Ruth, and thanks to the rest of the team for this opportunity. I, like Robert, have a fair lived experience, not as much as Robert, but of bipolar, and I've had a fair few things happen in my life, and a lot of, I suppose, men's mental health and other mental health support groups and everything does come out of trauma. So it is quite apt that, you know, we've heard a lot of that today. But my discussion today is going to be on about it is going to create discussion. It's more about what after support, what do we do now we've had all these great groups that have started up over the years, and where can we go forward here, and what more can we get involved in? So it is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek there, all the different roles that I do down the right hand side there, but there is a poignant point to that when I come back to it later on. And I want to dedicate this to the two guys there up in the thing. I've lost both of those guys to suicide, unfortunately, one being my brother and one being his best friend. And that's what steered me out of my darkness and bringing me back into getting involved and hopefully giving something back and paying something forward with the experiences that I've got. So without further ado, and if this works, I just want to go into a bit of discussion about what are the issues with talking about our feelings from a man's point of view. How do we see the need to meet the need? And there's a lot of person-centered discussion in the long-term plan from the NHS. But there's also a lot of concern about the NHS coming in and looking at peer support and trying to medicalise it. And I, again, like Robert, share the concerns about big pharmas and medicalised approach to mental health. I feel that peer support, mindfulness, fishing that was said before, artwork, everything else, whatever suits us, because we are all unique, we really should you know, get out there and try multiple things and find our niche, really. There is evidence for change in men's mental health, and I'll go into that in a little bit. And I'm not going to go into the case study, but it is there, and I will share these slides out that people can see a case study of what we've done in the group that I founded about 4 years ago. But I am talking here as a public advisor today. I think we've got a great view of mental health in the fact that we've got a lot of celebration that we need to do. We've heard from a fair few great groups today, but I just pulled a few of their different things off the internet. And 20 years ago, I had a CPN who said to me, I wish you was around in the 60s because you'd really enjoy a man's group. I don't think we talk as men as much as we used to do. And that was in the early 2000s. And now if you look just as you know, all the logos on the screen, here we are in 2022, you know, looking at it completely different. So what do I mean by see the need, meet the need? We already do the ask twice, the talking, the listening, non-judgmentally, and being kind. Those are three major things for me. There's also a lot of other things we can do, like we've all suggested today, which is you know, hobbies and stuff. But those three key things are the things that we need to do, not just from a man's point of view, but from everybody's point of view who have any sort of concerns, mental health, or any other the issues when the social determinants of health. You know, it could be political, it could be social, it can be deprivation, it can be financial. It's not just mental here, and that's what I'm trying to embellish and get a feed for today. So we went through the stats there before. Robert was speaking about stats. This is a stat from 2009, where, you know, we felt worried a low back then, and it was increasing. It went up by 6%. Men are now almost 3 times more likely to see a therapist than we did back then. So there is something to shout from the rooftops about. There is a movement forward in the mental health arena, and these have come from Mind, and these you know, have been fairly well researched. So I think there's a celebration here to be had about mental health. We've heard a lot of where we've come from today, and I think we need to start looking at where we now need to go to, because we are getting to a point of what possibly could hold us back. So what is the problem, and is there a problem? You know, that's the discussion I want to really get on today, and just start us thinking about what's next for men's mental health. So I had an idea about 5-6 years ago when I was struggling and I was coming through the system myself, of bottlenecks. So as I said, back in the 200s, I had myself, and that was it. I didn't have anybody I could go to. There wasn't that many men's groups about. I had my CPN who came and saw me once a week. And basically my bottleneck was pain. I couldn't get through the pain. I couldn't think that I had anything to do with my health. I thought it was everybody else's problem, and they all had to fix me. Then came along the idea of, an outreach guy came to my house, wasn't medical in any way, shape or form, came from the council, and he said, what do you want to do for yourself? And that was the first point in this, you know, journey we call life, back in 2017. And I couldn't actually answer the question. I was honest, and I said, I don't know what I like anymore. I've lost myself. I can't think about that. So that was my pain there. And then I had this realization that I owned this journey, and it was about me, and it's how I could do about it. So then if we move on, the 20 years or so forward, we have got self, and we can look at self, and we can, you know, we're encouraged to look at self. There's stuff on the TV. Men look inward more, as you saw from the slide there from Mind. We're 3 times more likely to go out and get the support. So I don't see a bottleneck anymore in that position where we was 20 years ago. So we have moved on a bit. But now I believe we've got a shared pain. We've got this understanding of, we share it with people, we go out to groups, we go, you know, I've been involved in veg plots and everything else. And it is great to be in my tribe, as I say, with people who understand what I do. But there's a shared pain. And really now it comes into a political angle, and I don't want to get political on it, but you know, we do now need to start seeing the service expansion. We do now start see the money being put into services. We've got some amazing services out there, you know, Mersey Care, CWP, a lot of other sort of services there. But we can see also before COVID, and let's not use COVID as an example, we were facing a massive task in mental health before COVID. COVID's made it, you know, a number of times worse. We now need to see how we can do and support each other, collaborate more. And I'll give you an example on one of the next slides of how they're doing that elsewhere in the country. And I sat in one of these meetings a couple of weeks ago when somebody said they don't mind stealing ideas. And I think there's a lot of that that needs to come about. There's a lot of collaborative thinking that we need to do. You know, just the Guardian there last year, mental health services on general are at a crisis point. And back in 2018, the TUC was actually putting figures against it of, you know, there's basically a £5.8 billion funding gap that the LGA looked at. And we're near to 2025 now, and has it come along? And again, these are questions I don't have the answers to, but the questions that we should be thinking about now in the services and all the groups that we look forward to. And again, I'm trying not to politicize this. It just is what it is. So what is the answer? I think we need to remove the bottlenecks, and the future is bright. I put it there as a question, but I do believe there's a lot of brightness out in our future from a mental health point of view. There's collaboration in our community and the healthcare community. I have a view, and I share this quite often, is that there is just health, mental health, physical health, social care, whatever. It's our health, it's our social health that we should be collaborating with and working towards. Proper funding from community and peer-led groups. there is a lot of research out there now coming from the big players in this, which are the SAMHSA in America, Australia, Canada, who are far, far ahead of us in this, that this works. And groups like ours that we've all discussed today works. Talking about things from a men's point of view works, and it saves in the range of millions and billions of pounds over the years. That if we nip it in the bud and we get a lot of right time interventions at the very beginning, then we save the money that we think giving a peer-led or a person-centered view may cost. Person-centered partnerships, community health workers. There's a study done in Brazil, and they've now brought it into 3 areas, and this is one project I'm involved with Andrew from Liverpool, that we're looking now at community health workers in the space of where they just go around once a month, once a week, whatever it is, and ask if people are okay. And it's fantastic. If you Google community health workers Brazil, you see the GP video who looks at all that sort of things. So I'm not going to go through all these one by one, but these are the areas that work is getting done in, and we can get involved in this. A massive thing that we, the 80 of us are involved in is the research. Everything starts with research, and that's why I got involved with research rather than just helping people and running peer support groups. Is that if we can change how things are done at the very beginning and find out the details and everything, then we've got a good idea going forward. Again, another thing, if you want to Google the integrated care service at Norfolk and Waverley. They've thrown the bathwater out, kept the good bits, but thrown the bathwater out and said, right, let's fully integrate with our communities, because they was one of the worst performing CCGs in the country. So they've completely turned it on its head, and it's just a really fabulous piece of work that they're doing down there. And again, we get all these change.orgs come through every now and again and everything else. Yes, we can get the MPs behind a lot of things, but we know that's difficult. We do need the right funding. We do need the staff supported, because the staff are just, I've seen some fantastic staff, and I've seen some real just struggles in and around the works that I've been involved with, and getting the right resources. We've spent a lot of money in the past of things that haven't worked, so this is just about getting the right resources and getting things into place. And again, this is a discussion. This isn't the answers as such. These are things that would remove them bottlenecks and would possibly push us onto that brighter future that I truly believe is possible. So there is a case study there of an isolated lady. I'll let you go through it in your own time. Like I said, I'll make these slides available. But there is some great stories, and we've all got great stories. We've heard the fishing today, and the plots and the artwork. Find our niche. We're all unique. Go out there and find what we need to find, especially from a men's point of view. Robert's found his, and it's great to hear a fellow bipolar talking so candidly about his, and I'll thank Robert for that, because it is difficult sometimes to talk about mania as it is the depression side of it as well. So I hope that helped from my point of view, and if I stop sharing my screen, I can see chats and other things.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mark. It was really good to hear your thoughts on where next for men's mental health, and there's some amazing stuff going on, but it needs to be joined up, like you say, and it's so important to think about collaboration, co-production and research within that, and that's what what we're trying to do today. And I really hope that everyone joins the forum and carries on these really important conversations. And in a minute, we're going to have a chance to get to know each other a bit better in breakout rooms, but we're going to lead into that via two of our other public advisors, who are Neil Joseph and Paul Moran. So if I can bring you on next, thanks.
Hi Selena, I think it's just myself today, just Paul Moran. So hello, good afternoon everybody, hope you can hear me well. No presentation from me today, but really enjoyed listening to all the speakers today. I'm just going to set up our sessions in a couple of minutes. going to get together in some breakout sessions and have some really interesting conversations between each other. But I just want to kind of introduce myself first. So I'm Paul Moran. I'm one of the public advisors with our Northwest Coast, and I'm also a theme lead on the Health and Care Across the Life course theme. I'm actually I've got a full-time career in banking, but I'm also a boxing coach in an amateur boxing club in my local community, and we work with kids from kind of 6 right up to adulthood. I know we're talking about men's mental health today, and we've had some really good discussions. But the big thing I reflected on when I was thinking about this was the famous saying of "Show me the boy at 7 and I'll show you the man." In my experience, a lot of boys' kind of traits are already starting to come through at that early age. And some of them can actually be quite difficult for parents to manage. We get a lot of referrals into the branch from parents who say, you know, I've got a lot of anger issues in young kids as young as 6, 5 and 6 really. And obviously very, very difficult to manage that. And I'm very aware that life events can also shape how a young man grows and develops. I recently myself took the opportunity to complete a timeline review of my life and some of the milestones that had affected me both positively and negatively from a very young age through to today. I found that I just had lots of ups and downs, as everybody's life does, right throughout my life. But probably the last 10 years, it was mostly ups. So it was mostly real positives. And everybody was, you know, really enjoying I'm really enjoying my life and that kind of stuff. And then the pandemic hit. And for me and my family over the last 3 years, it's been quite tough. And there's obviously a lot of incidents that happened over the last 3 years that have made it that way. I also had to review and reflect on kind of how the pandemic's impacted my colleagues in work, or the coaching team that I've got around me in the boxing club, and the kids that I work with, to see if they've got to do anything differently to support those people that I'm in contact with daily in whatever their new normal is, and whatever this new normal world is. And some of the real issues with parents losing jobs, having financial issues through reduced incomes, more people than ever on benefits, the digital divide, reduced opportunities for employment and education, and more people having to make the heartbreaking decision whether they actually heat the homes or feed the children or send them to a boxing club, are real issues that are affecting people in our boxing club. And I just wanted kind of myself to consider, you know, what do I need to do differently to kind of increase the, you know, the physical and mental health of some of these kids. I'm also aware that kind of there's lots of different things in the older age group that have come up. I think a few of them have been mentioned today. Older kind of gents are suffering with isolation and loneliness in a lot of circumstances. There's some addictions come off the back of kind of, you know, that exclusion, and the digital exclusion that's been exacerbated through the pandemic. I'm really very keen to use my role as a public advisor to get involved in as many research ideas as I can, and many projects as I can, and I'll hopefully have a good chat in my working group for people to come up with any ideas. But if anybody'd like to speak to me separately about any of these, for ideas that they've got right across the life course, please feel free to contact me, and I'll put my details in the chat later on as well. That's just to kind of set up these next sessions. You know, I'll just have a little think about some of the things that, you know, have happened in your life, and maybe you know, bring these into the sessions that we're doing. And if anybody's got any great ideas for projects, please feel free to share when we go into our breakout groups. I think I'm handing back into Selena or Ruth to put us into the groups.
Say thank you to everyone for attending and all our amazing presenters. We had a really fascinating chat in our breakout room. I'm sure all of you did too. It'd be really great to hear back from you, but I think we are running out of time. So I will give you the challenge of please join up to the NHS Futures site, introduce you when you get the email, hopefully later today. Come and introduce yourself again and your reflections on what you heard today. Really want to make sure that we keep up these connections and talking to each other, and connecting with the researchers about how we can move some of the ideas that you have forward about how we can support men's mental health. Also sign up as a public advisor if you're interested for the ARC. And if you've got any suggestions of other seldom heard groups that you'd like us to talk about in the Seldom Heard Forum, please do get in touch. And thank you so much, everyone, today. I think it was just really powerful stories, and it's so fascinating to hear people's lives and how they've managed their mental health over time, and all the amazing ways that people are supporting our communities across the Northwest. So thanks again, and have a lovely day, everyone.